So, I mean, my opinion on the current political status is as follows. I think the United States is undergoing a major uh, transformation from a liberal, inclusive society uh, to a more xenophobic and conservative place because of the pushback that the white majority has given through Mr. Trump's election, because of the fear of the growth in the numbers of people of color across the United States, and of course the economic uh, kind of stagnancy which a lot of people face, particularly the white middle class and the working class, whose real wages have not gone up for the last 2 decades or even more. And I think it's also related to the general wave of anti globalization, because after 3 decades, the globalization project has failed. Countries like the US, the UK, and even parts of Europe, there are protests against this idea of globalization, which keeps people which promotes unequal development, unequal income distribution, but also keeps certain classes of people out of economic prosperity. So in the US, you've had in the last 2 decades a rise in the number of billionaires, for example, the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. And a lot of people who feel left out from that economic recovery miracle that Obama spearheaded are trying to bring about a conservative change. But I think more worrying sign is the fact that some of the freedoms and some of the equities in America were very hard fought and hard earned, like racial justice, the abolition of Jim Crow, the abolition of segregation. It took centuries for the US to come to that point. The fact that religious freedom was finally instituted, practiced, respected, it took a long time to come to that. And the current political climate, unfortunately, endangers that of a reversal. And as I mentioned earlier today, you were there in the talk, that that reversal is not American centric either, because if the US democracy retrenches or the quality of democratic freedoms declines here, it will have a global effect, because US, because by dint of its military power and economic power, is a world leader. So if some people want to curtail press freedoms here, others are ready to follow suit. So it is both a dangerous thing for Americans and for the world. But I think personally, because if you ask me about my own predicament, then I think I had never imagined that I would be in this cliched state of unbelonging. I left my own country, the country where I would say I was privileged in many ways. I got the best of education. I lived in beautiful homes. I have great friends. I was even earned recognition and fame and lots of money at a young age. And I had to leave that country because a part of me and certain values I adhered to were not acceptable to certain people in that country, and which resulted in violence. And I came to the US partly because some of my family was here, but partly I was inspired by the idea of democratic freedoms, academic freedoms, press freedoms that exist in the US, which I still think they do. Mind you, I'm not going to castigate that all is bleak. But the question is that with the rise of this xenophobic politics, where the Muslims or people of Muslim identity, so, for example, I was born into a Muslim family. My last name is Ahmad. You can't get more Muslim than that. I am brown in skin, so I'm a person of color, and I am an immigrant. I am a part refugee, so I am on all the dangerous lists that contemporary America is creating. And the reality now for me is that I can't really go back to my own country yet because I'm not going to feel safe, or I'm not going to feel safe about people who work with me. Or I will get a job there, I will get a good job there, I will have a role in public life, but I can't let anyone be harmed. And here I I am being repeatedly told, admittedly through a minority. I don't think majority of Americans are from that school of thought. I mean, what my interaction with Americans has been more than pleasant. They've been very welcoming, very inclusive, very tolerant. But this noisy minority is telling me every day that I'm not acceptable here. I don't belong here. So I am now feeling I'm undergoing, I thought I was going through a midlife crisis earlier. I left my country, I got divorced, and now I feel that I'm entering into a real existential crisis. Where do I belong? Who am I? Am I, if I'm a Muslim and a Pakistani, I'm not, I'm out of place in my own country. And if I'm an immigrant, brown, Muslim, refugee in America, I'm not acceptable. And I'm just going to look for an island somewhere in Pacific Ocean and maybe find an internet connection and just go there.